What's going on, everybody? How is everybody doing today? Welcome back here today to another episode here on Just Ballin'. Today, we're going to talk more about the 2025 NBA draft because we're pretty much at the mid-season part of the 2025 collegiate season. Conference play has just started up and it feels as weird as ever. Like I was watching Illinois, Oregon the other night and it was like a late game and I'm like, wait, this is Big Ten play. It just feels weird, like watching USC play Penn State or any of those teams that could match up against each other. Obviously, with all these conferences looking so different, like Cal against Duke is ACC play. I don't know. It's weird. But today, I wanted to talk about some things about the 2025 draft, and I want to talk about some risers from preseason expectations going into this draft and some fallers. It's pretty much just comparing prospects that were at one point in the consensus maybe a top pick, and they've dropped a little bit, and they could be kind of stock down guys, fallers, and then vice versa. Guys that probably weren't on the radar to go in round one. Maybe they looked at as like second round prospects, and now they could even be lottery prospects the way they are playing this year. I have a decent amount of stock up guys, and then I have, I think, maybe one or two less guys in the stock down tier, but they'll kind of be like a recurring trend over there. So if you guys are watching on YouTube, you could see compared to like audio version, which those links are in the YouTube description if you want to check that out. The first guy we're going to talk about is Dylan Harper, because I think Dylan Harper has been a noticeable stock up guy. Now, I think more so like going into the year, is he the best guard in the draft? Is it Nolan Traore? I would say it was like 55 Harper, 45 Traore, and Harper has just clearly shot up as the best guard in this draft and potentially even the best player. There's like a chance that Dylan Harper could be the number one overall pick. So I'm like, all right, I got to have him in the stock up tier because I think that is a notable switch. We're not going to talk about Cooper Flagg in this video. He was the preseason number one guy, and he still kind of is. So he hasn't changed a lot. You could mention Ace Bailey for stock down, but no, Ace Bailey was talked about as a number one pick, and now I would say Ace Bailey is more in that pick 3 conversation. But I think there's still a chance if the playmaking could change in the second half, he could still be a top guy. So Dylan Harper this year, I think for YouTube, you guys are just going to see the stats up as I kind of talk about more from what I've seen from them this year. He has been one of the more fun offensive players this year. Now, college basketball is weird, and with all this NIL, all this transfer stuff, it is looking so different. It is cool that Rutgers got these 2 exciting prospects, even though the team overall, like they paid all this money possibly in the NIL to go after Harper and Bailey, but the rest of the team isn't great. And I think they're around 500 on the year, and they've done all right since Big Ten play has started. They really haven't done great, and it was a weird game for Harper. I think he was coming over an illness in that Wisconsin game. But yeah, Harper has been one of the more exciting offensive players to watch in college basketball this year. His first step is extremely polished for somebody that's a 6'6 guard, 215 pounds, and I think he's got potential 3-level scoring ability at the NBA level because he can get to the free throw line. I think the shot needs to be a little bit more consistent, and that's something we're going to see over the course of the year because I don't think the shot diet is bad. I think he can take good shots. I think he's a good playmaker just overall in the half court. And he's also leading basically freshmen in scoring this year, over 21 points on the season. He's taking about 14 shots a night, shooting 52% from the field, 37% from 3. And I think that's a positive right there. Being able to shoot 37% from 3 when there were question marks about your outside shot going into the season. He's got the lineage, son of Ron Harper, brother of Ron Harper Jr., obviously a Rutgers legend. And he just has everything in his dribble package. He's got the Euro step. He can do the sham god on you. He had that against I believe that was Princeton back in late December. That move was just filthy. And then his crossover, also so polished as well for somebody here as a freshman. And just being one of the best pure scorers in the country at his age is really exciting for what he could be at the NBA level. And I think given his size, playmaking, and scoring ability, just kind of having all those like a well-balanced game in the backcourt can now open up so many options for him in the draft because he can play the 1, he can play the 2. He's got the size defensively to play the 2. He's got the ball handling and playmaking ability to play the 1 at the NBA level, which now can make him pretty much in conversation for anybody in this draft, right? Anybody that's picking number 1, even if it's like Sacramento, hey, they have De'Aaron Fox. Yes, you could put Dylan Harper next to De'Aaron Fox. We're seeing him coexist with a score-first guy like Ace Bailey at Rutgers this year. And I wonder how his shot diet, though, is going to look like at the NBA level when his shot isn't falling, because I think that could be some fair criticism for his game. How is his confidence going to look when the shot is not going? Is he going to be able to impact the game in other ways? Is he going to crash the offensive glass? Is he going to be a cutter, a slasher? Can he be just an overall good playmaker when he's maybe 2 for 8 in a game? I think those are all some things we're going to have to learn with Dylan Harper this year. And Rutgers, unless they like run the table, unless they win the Big Ten tournament, they're not going to be making March Madness, which is a shame because I really thought we could see see him and Ace Bailey on the big stage this year. But either way, I think it's going to be a very fun evaluation process for Dylan Harper to see what he could be at the NBA level. Can he rival Cooper Flagg to be the #1 overall pick? He's active in the passing lanes, and he doesn't really turn the ball over too much for his usage either. He doesn't foul a lot, but he could get a lot of lackadaisical on the defensive end. So those, I think, something that's people are going to look at weaknesses going up to the draft. He's not a perfect prospect by any means, but I think he's got to be my first stock up guy since he was probably in that 3 to 5 range preseason, and now like going all the way up to #1 pick conversation. That is a big jump. Next up, we have one of my favorite prospects to watch this year. Man, is he entertaining. Kasparas Jakushonis over in Illinois. So he played last year for FC Barcelona, played in the under 18s, like went up against somebody we'll get to in the disappointments throughout those, like that, those under 18s. I think it was like the Adidas Next Gen tournament. Like those rosters are stacked with college and just kind of potential 2025 draft prospects. But yeah, Kasparas Jakushonis, who came over from Barcelona, goes to Illinois. It's a new thing we're seeing with college basketball. Is really one of my favorite prospects to watch this year. I think going into the year, he was around like the 10 to 15 range, maybe the 10 to 20 range. What is he going to be like overseas now or here in the States? What is he going to be like in college basketball? It's a different game. Can he adapt to that? And man, has he done so this year. Illinois has been a very good team this year. That was a statement win against Oregon, where they blew them out in Eugene, and they followed it up with a win against Washington. And Jakushonis, honestly, when his offensive game is not going or he's not prioritizing that offense because they have a Vicic, they have Kai Boswell, Will Riley comes off the bench. They have a ton of guys that could score. He could still impact the game in so many ways. Him as a ball handler, I think really excites me because he's very twitchy. He's not like stiff, which I'm not going to talk about Igor Demon today, but I think that's one of his weaknesses as a ball handler is he's not really the most athletic guy in the world, and he can't offset that with his like just being able to be twitchy or agile or just use acceleration with the ball in his hands at times. And I think Jakushonis really has that. And he also has just fantastic footwork. Either it's in the post, driving at the rim, or maybe just gets stuck up with the ball in his hands. He's able to keep that pivot foot planted, and he can really make something out of nothing. And you just gotta, I think, watch a game, watch 32 at Illinois this year, and you can really see somebody that could be a top 5 pick in this upcoming draft because this year he's averaging 16.5 points, 5.5 rebounds, 5.5 assists. He's shooting just under 50% from the field, 41% from 3, 87.5% from the free throw line. Those check off a lot of boxes that his shot can translate to the next level. He has the confidence in it, and it's a good looking jumper. It's pretty smooth out there, and I don't think he's ever going to run into any like confidence issues or hitch issues. And that really excites me because he plays with so much confidence. It looks like he plays hard 110% of the time, and I really want to make it out to like some Illinois game this year. I don't think, like off the top of my head, they play Rutgers. They haven't played Rutgers yet because obviously we're going to get them in Big Ten play. Knowing my luck, like I'm kind of close to Rutgers, not really, but I can make it out there. I'm not going to make it out to Illinois, unfortunately. So I would love to do that. He could finish with contact. He's 6'6", 205. Maybe he's going to put on a little bit of weight when he makes it to the league. But being able to 6'6", he has a high, like arcing layup package, which allows him to get shots over bigger defenders. Like he's already 6'6", can finish over guys that are guards and forwards. But now this allows him to be a little bit more efficient at the rim, finishing over bigs. He's got a really good dribble package. And if you're watching him without the ball in his hands, he moves extremely well. He's not like planted in the corner. He's not just like, all right, I'm waiting for my jumper. I'm not going to crush the offensive glass. He is moving. And I think that's just like the international European side, like what he's learned at Barcelona and in Lithuania coming over to the college level. And it's just really, I think maybe makes his arsenal that much more effective. He's got a post fadeaway jumper. That's looked good this year for Illinois. He's a good rebounder. He crashes the glass. He's a hustle player. And I think scouts are going to realize that and love him to be in top 5 conversations, which I think he's in there right now. He can knock down spot up threes. Like I mentioned, he's a good rebounder. He's a great playmaker. And just, I think having that experience over for FC Barcelona, I think it could become like a pipeline with the NIL over here to the NBA level. Him as a ball handler in the pick and roll can navigate ball screens extremely well. He can anticipate passes and jump them kind of like a cornerback on the defensive end of the floor. Like he's not the most athletic guy in the world, but I think him using his IQ, his quickness, and his just overall ability to see the floor like 2 plays before it happens can really just offset maybe the lack of athleticism that you may not see in him. He's got a long wingspan to guard some guards and forwards out there. And I think he's physical enough in the post at 205, and who knows, maybe he's going to put on just a little bit more weight, but I think he's pretty good, or he's like filled out right now at the collegiate level. And yeah, we'll see how the athleticism is going to be at the NBA level, but man, this is one of, I think, the more safe prospects in this draft. And I think his stock has shot up this year to now being like top 5 pick talks, and there's a chance he could be picked over Ace Bailey, which is just insane to say from what he was looked at in the preseason. Another player that has shot up this year, I think in terms of just draft stock, he was always in that tier of forwards with like Drake Powell, Jaleel Bethea, Ian Jackson, even Kasperi Shakuchonis, and Igor Demin and Concanippo, Liam McNeely, was Trey Johnson, the freshman at Texas. And he's someone that shot up this year who's kind of in like that next tier of prospects. VJ Edgecombe was always in those top 5 talks, and I think Trey Johnson in some ways has leapfrogged VJ Edgecombe in some people's big boards, and that could be a consistent trend throughout the rest of the year. Trey Johnson playing in a very, very competitive SEC. It's one of the best conferences we have seen of all time. And then obviously Edgecombe is playing at Baylor. We're not going to talk about him in the video or in this episode just because he's a weird prospect, Edgecombe. I think he does everything well this year besides score the basketball. So I think his athleticism can make it just fine at the NBA level, and I don't think his draft stock has dropped too much. But you could definitely talk about him in the stock down guys. But let's go back to Trey Johnson. One of the best jumpers in this class. One of the best pure on jump shots in this class. We saw that at high school, or we saw that pre-Texas. We're seeing that now. He's averaging 18.5 points this year, 46% from the field, 40% from 3 on very good volume. He is taking 6.3 threes a night this year. He's also shooting 85% from the free throw line. Now, for this Texas offense, he doesn't really get maybe a much chance to showcase his playmaking skills. Could that be a little bit better? Could his court vision be better? Yes, but it's not like this Texas team is one of the best teams in the country. You would say they're probably like middle of the pack, end of the pack in terms of SEC this year, just because of how unreal that conference is. And they've been competitive in most of their games this year. As Trey Johnson's step back jumper is off the charts. Somebody 6'6", 190. I think he's somebody that could benefit putting on a little bit more weight. He's got great athleticism in the half court, in the full court. Like he can run in transition, which is exciting to see in a prospect for him that isn't always like shooting first. Like he can score in other ways. He's got a great form, and it's a quick release, which is obviously very translatable to the NBA level, and somebody that could be a great spot up shooter. Maybe like he's like somebody, not like Grady Dick, but like you go into the NBA, you're going to be going from one of the main focus points of your offense in college to somebody that may stand in the corner, like Grady Dick was at Kansas over to Toronto. And I think Trey Johnson could be somebody like that, at least in his rookie year, but be a very positive shooter in year number 1. He's got a great pull-up jumper in the mid-range off like that pump fake 3, because he's a very respectable 3-point shooter. So teams got to play up tight, and they got to kind of buy in. They got to jump on his pump fakes, and he's able to take that 1-2 dribbles past that defender from that closeout, attack that closeout, and then he's able to get a great pull-up jumper because he's 6'6", he's got a long wingspan, and he could shoot this over most defenders, and I think that's one of his most like aesthetically pleasing parts of his game. He's so fast with the ball in his hands to get around defenders. This year, his turnaround post jumper is great, and I think he could be a very good scorer at the NBA level. And I think he's kind of got like a little bit of Ace Bailey to him. Like there's times where maybe I wish he can get to the rim a little bit more, and he gets stopped by some defenders that are maybe stronger, just as quick as him. But he's able to knock down those tough shots. He really is. Hand in the face, turnaround jumper, shot clock winding down. He finds a way to get these to come in. And I think his shot is just going to translate perfectly to the NBA level because of how good of a shooter he was pre-Texas. We knew that going into this season and his NCAA season this year. So I think Trey Johnson has gone from like that middle tier of wings, somebody that was definitely a tier 2, maybe tier 3 prospect hype-wise preseason, pedigree-wise, was kind of like clumped into all those wings after Flagg and Bailey, and maybe Edgecombe, depending on what you view him as. And I think he's kind of shot up because Johnson can play the 2. He can play the 3 at the NBA level. I think that's a perfect spot for him to be that wing. I think there may be some weaknesses, like what is he going to be when his shot isn't falling down? Can he be a good help defender? Will he get kind of into his own head? Or is he going to maybe shoot himself out of games sometimes? But his efficiency has been good enough. And I think he'll benefit from being under a good coaching staff. I wonder if it's like a revolving door in the NBA level. Could that affect his game? Or maybe just not a good coaching staff to help us out with his development, but I think he's definitely a stock up guy this year. All right, let's talk bigs now. Somebody that I actually got to watch last year at Montverde Academy. I got to see him play at Hofstra. Derek Queen, somebody that was not even in talks in preseason top center talks, and now he could be center 1 in this class because going into the year, it was Kaman Maliwatch and Rocco Zikarsky, and now Derek Queen is right up there, I think, with Kaman, because Kaman's more based off potential. Derek Queen is based off production this year over at Maryland. 6'10", 246, plays quick, man. He plays quick, and I think he's got a good size right now. He's got a good weight on him. It feels like maybe I don't know, it's like maybe a smaller 6'10", but he's crazy athletic. I don't know, like he looks a lot bigger, obviously. He was able to dominate in high school at Montverde this year as well. He's been productive. Outside of like that Washington game I watched recently was a rough game for Derek Queen. Kind of getting into his own head, not able to finish inside. But he's been a very productive big man this year against some respectable teams. It hasn't been the most competitive Maryland game this year. But they've definitely played some good teams like Villanova. They've played Ohio State, respectable. Purdue, obviously respectable. Washington, Oregon, but he was definitely better against Oregon. But yeah, Derek Queen, I think, is now in talks for center 1 or center 2 in this draft. Somebody that was maybe first round, end of the first round, early second round to, all right, this is a lottery prospect. Definitely has a huge frame on him at 6'10", 246. And I think like what I love about him is his athletic ability. Is he could just take off like from above the restricted area and throw it down, and it just brings a lot of excitement and energy when you're watching Maryland basketball. He's got somewhat of a fadeaway jumper when the shot clock is winding down. I mean, I've seen him hit that shot a couple times. I don't know how that's going to be at the NBA level. I don't think he's going to have like the green light to take that shot from coaches, but we'll see how that progresses throughout the year. I love his ability to run the floor. Like, he's somebody that can get a rebound, make the outlet pass, and just get down floor. And I think that's obviously a skill set that NBA scouts and GMs would love to see, or just like to see that in a big man. I think he's got good footwork inside. I think he could be a little bit better and could use some improvement, but I think all the signs are there that he's not going to be like a clunky, awkward big man at the next level. He's got a solid running hook shot. He's got a post game. And I think it comes down to like, who's going to draft him, right? Where does this fit on an NBA roster? Are you going to take the one-dimensional, like, kind of old school big man with a top pick? Yes, he's like a very athletic player. And we've seen centers in the past that haven't really had a lot of floor spacing ability. He's hit a 3 or 2 this year for Maryland, but it is far from a consistent 3-point shot. I doubt he's going to take much at the NBA level, but we've seen guys like Derek Lively succeed over the last couple of years, at least in that 2023 draft. We're seeing Yves Missi be a good contributor this year. Zach Edey. Obviously, they have different styles of play, but more so guys that aren't going to be the best floor spacers in the world, but could show off their athleticism, their ability to run up and down the floor. And he wears long sleeves too, which is kind of cool. I don't know if we're going to see that at the NBA level, but hey, makes him a little bit different out there. He's got a good spin move inside. He can finish with contact. I like his ability to also draw just kind of defense's attention in the post, and then he's able to find that alley-oop to the dunker spot, which I think could make it for a fun fit wherever he ends up. If you have like an athletic power forward playing next to him, like that could be fun. I don't know if they're going to even be in play to draft him, but like Derek Queen in Detroit sounds fun with Ausar Thompson and Ron Holland in those dunker spots where he's able to throw up these alley-oops to these insanely athletic wings, and that could just kind of help him out because I kind of like Derek Queen's court vision, and he's going to be playing with a lot better talent on wherever he gets drafted compared to what it is this year at Maryland. And he can also facilitate to the corner. So you have shooters around him as well. He's able to draw some defense. Maybe he makes that spin move to the baseline and he's able to make that far pass over to the weak side corner. Knockdown shooter right there. So I think he's an intriguing prospect for sure. I think a lot of like what we see about Derek, like guys we talked about, Kasparis, Dylan Harper, Trey Johnson, plug and play, probably fit on a bunch of different teams. I think Derek Queen is going to be a big fit base prospect, and I'm really excited to see where that goes throughout the course of this year's season. Now, I'll be honest, I didn't know much about Jeremiah Fears going into this college basketball season, but man, has he been a joy to watch this year for the Oklahoma Sooners in SEC play. Now, we're starting to get up their SEC play, so we're going to see him play a lot better competition. We'll see how the shot pulls up against better defenses, but he's been really good in non-conference play so far. He's got a fantastic ball handle, good dribble package. Like, he's a 6'4" guard at 180. Definitely could benefit from becoming a little bit stronger when we get into that draft process. He's got a good, I think, like, ability to have confidence in his shot. He's not going to be scared of a big shot. He can get that in rhythm, and I think when his shot is on, all right, you can see this guy have this confidence, and he's going to not be scared of taking a big-time shot. He can run the floor as a scorer and a playmaker. He can also finish over bigger defenders. Like, at 6'4", he's got that ability to finish at the rim. This year, he's shooting 49% from the field. Three-point shot hasn't been great over the last few weeks. It has dropped a little bit, but he's shooting about 30% from 3 this year. Good free throw shooter at 84%, and I like the shot enough where I think he could be a fine three-point shooter at the NBA level. We've seen guys come and go, bad shooters in college, bad shooters as rookies, and they can develop a shot. Like, we've seen that in the past with Fox and Lonzo Ball. And maybe at times Darius Garland, but not as much as those other two guys. He's insanely quick, and with the ball in his hands, and without the ball in his hands, mentioned the shot can be streaky at times. His ability to hit, just kind of touch shots, pull up mid-range, and I think he's got a nice, just overarching, arsenal to his game offensively. Like, I don't feel worried about him trying to figure out what he wants to do out there for this Oklahoma team, which really didn't have a lot of, hype going into this year in the SEC. He's a very good alley-oop passer. He's able to find those cutting guys on the baseline, or even in transition. He can navigate ball screens well in the pick and roll, and he can make that extra pass, or if he tries to find his first read, which is the roller, the big man going to the rim. And if that's not there, he can maybe go weak side baseline, he can go strong side corner, and he's able to make, I think, the right decision out there. He can get a little turnover happy. Like, he's averaging 3.6 turnovers this year, but you watch his Oklahoma offense, it's a lot of Jeremiah Fears, and not the greatest team around him this year. So I'm not going to really put too much, I guess, like, stock into that. I think those turnovers would cut down if he had like a little bit better of teammates around him. He's got kind of a dope headband usage. He rocks the headband and no shooting sleeves. I like that aspect of his game. It's aesthetically pleasing out there. He's got a good crossover. And I think the one thing though I've noticed for Jeremiah Fears this year that I would like to, I don't have the ability to get into that shot tracking data or synergy. If anybody has, I don't know, any synergy access that could lob your boy something, that would be amazing. Please let me know on Twitter. But yeah, Jeremiah Fears relies a ton on his right hand. I don't know what the splits are, him finishing with the left to finishing at the right, but he relies a ton on that right hand, something I've noticed this year. And I wonder if scouts have started to realize that, and that's something that maybe you gotta like worry about, because defenses are going to know about that. If I know about that, opposing defenses in college and then the NBA will obviously know that, and that can kind of limit his effect of his game. So yeah, I'd love to know that stats. Maybe it's something I've just noticed and it hasn't really been as prevalent or noticeable to some other people. But yeah, I think that could be a weakness in Jeremiah Fears' game, but is a very fun prospect for sure. His stock is up. Two more stock up guys. Danny Wolf just had a breakout game against the USC Trojans, man, where he ended up having 21 points, 13 rebounds, 7 assists, 2 steals, 6 blocks. He shot 75% from the field, 66% from 3, went 2 of 3 from downtown, and man, is he a fun prospect. Somebody that was a transfer from Yale last year. Dusty May, the new Michigan coach, brings him over, and him and the Vlad Golden, who they brought Golden with Dusty May over from FAU, is a very fun big man game over at Michigan this year. Wolf on the year is averaging a double-double, 12 points, 10 rebounds. He's playing primarily the power forward position, which I think could be fun. Or not fun, but like more so important for his draft stock, because I think he's someone that could play the 4 as like a help defender, help big man defender, but also athletic, or at least quick enough. Maybe not the greatest athlete, but at least quick enough to be a 4 at the NBA level, and also the 5. And that kind of like versatile hybrid aspect of his game on both ends could make him a very intriguing prospect. But he's averaging a double-double this year, 4 assists, 58% from the field, 36% from 3, 60% from the line. He hasn't really been the greatest free throw shooter in his career so far. In college, he spent 2 years at Yale. This year at Michigan, obviously, throughout 15 games. In his career, he's shooting 68% from the free throw line. He's shooting 35%, 34% from 3 on his career, but this has been the best three-point shooting year, and he was around the same last year at Yale. We'll see if it is improvement on it, or it's going to kind of regress to what it was last year. And I think just him being a power forward / center hybrid is a very just I guess like different aspect of his game as a prospect, because like we're not going to see, I think, that ability from Kaman or Derek Queen. Maybe not even Thomas Sorber over at Georgetown, who I'm not going to talk about in this video, but has definitely been rising up draft boards. Wolf is a fantastic rebounder at the 4 or the 5, and he's a great passer. He's a very good playmaker. He's not the most athletic player in the world, but I think his quickness, his basketball IQ, his agility can make up for that. It's a lazy comp, but I kind of get like a Mo Wagner vibe from watching him, but there's obviously the Michigan comps there, so that's why I said it was a lazy comp, but I think it's something like that. Not the most athletic player in the world, but plays hard, can play multiple positions, and if that three-point shot could be consistent, man, he may go top 20 in this draft when it's all said and done. He moves well without the ball in his hands in the half court. Like if Golden has the ball in the post, he's able to cut baseline, he's able to move off screens above the break and knock down an open three-point shot. And I do worry about like if his three-point shot isn't falling, where is he on the floor, especially if he's the center, because I don't know if he's as effective when the post when his like post play is not just on that game. Like maybe it's not going in, he's going to bend the post a little bit, going up against maybe just as tall or a very good center defender. How can he counteract that? How can he respond? I think that's something to keep an eye on Michigan this year. But yeah, great ball handling for somebody his size, a very rising prospect, of course, a ton of bunch of draft boards this year, and I'm excited to watch him in Big Ten play over the next couple of weeks to see if he's like a for sure first round guy, or maybe as the competition gets better, it drops off a little bit. We'll see. And the last player I want to talk about in the stock up guys, Rasheer Fleming at St. Joe's. I wasn't too familiar with Rasheer Fleming. Plays in the A10 for St. Joe's, like going into this year, and he may be a top 20 guy in this class. Over on the Strauss channel, I'm going to have like my midseason top 30 big board out soon, and Rasheer Fleming's definitely going to be in it. Oh my God. I love this man as a prospect. He's a junior. He's 6'9", 220. He's averaging 16 points, 9 rebounds, above an assist a night. Not the greatest team in the world, but St. Joe's is like definitely deserves some respect for what they are in the A10. They played some good out of conference games this year, earlier in the year, in some tournament. Like they beat Villanova, they beat Texas Tech. They ended up losing to Texas, but I feel like that was like a competitive game from what I remember it in. The A10 is a competitive conference for sure. Like you're going up against VCU, St. Bonaventure, Dayton, who's had their big wins this year. And Fleming is an incredible athlete. Oh my God. He jumps out at you when you watch these St. John's games or St. Joe's. Yeah. He could put you on just a poster. So you have to be alert for him out there because he will yam it on your head. He does a phenomenal job running the floor. Somebody gets a long rebound. He is running. You're just going to miss him because he's going to be down the floor. And I think he's got like a somewhat of a post game at 6'9", 220. Like the footwork is pretty good inside and in the paint, and he could finish strong in there. 6'9", good wingspan, and a good just offensive touch around the rim. He's a plus 3-point shooter this year, like I mentioned, over 40% from three on 4.4 3-point attempts on the year, which is going up every year of his St. John's career, and somebody that is definitely now on draft radar to be a first-round player. I doubt he's going to stay at St. Joe's unless his play craters towards the end of the year. We'll see. He hasn't been a great free throw shooter. He's taken 194 free throws in his NCAA career, shooting around 64% on those. So yeah, something to kind of like monitor. Maybe he's just not going to be a great free throw shooter. We're at a point of just like prospects and NBA talent that these guys are better 3-point shooters by a mile than they are free throw shooters, which is just weird. Doesn't make any sense. He's got active hands in the passing lane, and then you're off and running, and you like 6'9", insanely fast, like unreal athlete, one of the best athletes in this class, 100%. I think what I love about Fleming's game and watching him this year with the athleticism, the defensive potential, the 3-point shot, the ability to score at the rim and run the floor, I think he screams like stretch four in this league at 6'9". Maybe could put on a little bit of weight for sure, get a little bit stronger in the post as a defender, but I think he could be the pick and roll ball handler because he's got great ball handling ability for somebody at 6'9", and he could be the pick and roll screener. He's done that this year at St. Joe's. He can run the floor, he can catch alley-oops, and I think he could be, like that stretch four, 3-and-D hybrid, and that makes you so valuable. That's like a position every team covets, and that could be Rasheer Fleming this year. He's got a good rip through when he's driving with the ball in his hands with his first step. He's got over 3.2 stocks this year. He's averaging 1.7 steals and 1.5 blocks. And I think he could work on the playmaking a little bit, especially when he's in the post. Maybe he just gets a little score happy, but obviously he's the top guy on the St. Joe's team this year. I believe he's the top scorer. He's right up there with Eric Reynolds, the senior guard. But yeah, Rasheer Fleming has been so much fun to watch, and I'm so excited to just to keep watching him as a prospect, because I think he may actually crack my top 20 in my new big board. All right, so let's get into the stock down, guys. First guy we have to talk about, Nolan Traore, playing over in France for St. Quentin, because Traore, I mentioned before with Dylan Harper, was like going for the best guard in this class, and he was somebody that was top 5, like went top 5 in my way too early mock draft, and he's somebody that might not even be top 20 right now. So the reason why he was top 5 is because of what he did for that next-gen Adidas tournament that I talked about earlier in this, where he had that breakout game against Barcelona, against Kasper Shakuchonis. He had 45 points and 9 assists, and this man was getting to every spot. And that was the competition he would mainly be playing around at the collegiate level. Obviously, the way college basketball is now, you could be going up against 26-year-olds. But for the most part, guys around his age compared to what he's playing right now, over in France, in the Champions League or the Jeep Elite League, and he's playing a lot of guys that are stronger, older, bigger, more physical than him, and it's tough at times to just get a ton of minutes out there. Like he's playing around 20, 23 minutes a night, both in the Jeep Elite League and the Champions League, and he'd be playing a ton more, most likely on any college team, unless it was like Kentucky or something like that, or Auburn. So yeah, the talent, the age, they're all bigger than him out there for sure, but I think he's done an all right job finishing with contact inside. I mean, through 14 games this year in just like normal league play, he's averaging 10.5 points, shooting 34% from the field, 24% from three, 69% from the free throw line. He's a good playmaker, though. He's got good court vision, which I think is miles like ahead from where he is with his age. And I think that's like the one thing scouts will still see in him as a potential first-round pick, because it has been tough this year. He's a good ball handler. He turns the ball over a little bit, as much as you would like, but I don't think it's really as bad as the stats show. Maybe it's just like a pass that his teammate should have caught, and it's ruled as a turnover. But he's got, good court vision, good ball handling. I think a true point guard out there. I think he's someone that could be like just the quarterback, get his teammates involved, and isn't really going to lose you games, but obviously the efficiency, you would like for it to be a lot better. I think he does have defensive upside with his agility and quickness and his 6'4" frame. Going back to that tournament, like he went up against guys like Hugo Gonzalez, and then Igor Demin at BYU, and then Kasper Shakuchonis, like I mentioned, like guys that we're going to talk about for this draft. He hasn't been a great free throw shooter most of his career, which is kind of disappointing as well. Because then I'm like, all right, you know what? The free throw shooting, like what we saw maybe in 24, where he was 75% over 40 games, maybe it ends up being fine towards the end of it. But this year, he hasn't really been a great free throw shooter. He hasn't had like a season. I mean, like, nah, he was all right in 23, actually. I should give him a little bit of benefit of the doubt. But I wonder how that's going to translate. Like, will his shot be good enough at the NBA level? Because the efficiency isn't good. It's not. And I know Reese Shea struggled with that at times for Jailberg and overseas last year, but it's a different prospect with Traore. But I would still take a chance on him in the late teens, 20s to be a good point guard. Maybe not a starter right away and can learn from a good veteran point guard for sure. But I think he's someone that was in top 5, top 6 talks. They're probably not a lottery pick right now. Another stock down guy, Jahlil Bethea of the Miami Hurricanes. He was somebody that I mentioned before was in the talks with like Trey Johnson and Ian Jackson, Nakachonis, Igor Demin. Maybe like not Edgecombe tier, but right behind him as guys that could be one of those top wings after Cooper Flagg or Ace Bailey. And it's just not been that this year. Now I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt because Jim Larrañaga retired. He's like, I can't do this anymore. We saw that with Tony Bennett. We've seen that with coaches retiring. Like notable coaches, especially in the ACC, like Coach K, Roy Williams. Louisville's obviously been a disaster, but yeah, Larrañaga retires, Tony Bennett retires. It's probably one that I'm missing off the top of my head. I don't know who I'm forgetting, but yeah, either way, Bethea loses his coach. He wasn't really a starter most of the year. Now, I will say he's been better a little bit as of late. Like he's shooting 41% from 3, basically since like mid-December, which is a positive part of his game. He hasn't really played a ton this year. He's averaging 14 minutes a night, 7 points, 1.5 rebounds, under assist, under steal. I don't even think he's registered a block this year, which he hasn't. And he's shooting 34% from 3, 82% from the line. I still see a ton of potential. Like, shout out to Embiid from Philly, Archbishop Wood guy, and there's been that Philly to Miami pipeline. I just feel like he's not as active as you would like, not like making those playmaking plays that are like, all right, I see this in the NBA prospect, or those defensive standout plays. And Miami's one of the worst ACC teams this year. I don't know exactly when Larrañaga called it quits, but yeah, they got off to like 3-0 to start off the year against FDU, Binghamton, and Coppin State. And then they lose to Drake, who's a good team, Oklahoma State, VCU, Charleston Southern, and that might have been it for Larrañaga. That was the only game, or one of the 2 games, but they started this year. They lose to Arkansas, but they had 0 points. And then it's been better, like since they played Clemson, Tennessee didn't really do much in that game, but Presbyterian, Mount St. Mary's, Boston College, Virginia Tech. There's definitely, I think, potential for Bethea to be a guy next year in 2026, but I think he can go like that Kel'el Ware route, because when Kel'el Ware committed to Oregon, he was the top guy in that 2023 draft talks, like top high school recruit, and had a disappointing first year at Oregon. He hits a transfer portal, he recoups his draft stock over in Indiana, and he ended up being a first-round pick just outside the lottery in this most recent draft to the Miami. So I think that's the route Bethea can go, and I definitely think he could be a first-round pick next year. I just find it tough to see it this year unless something completely changes. And just in a bad environment in Miami, I think he's better off hitting that transfer portal at the end of the year. And then that could be said similar about Drake Powell at UNC, because I think Ian Jackson has been great over his last couple of games as a scorer. And UNC has been disappointing this year for sure. The whole ACC kind of has been besides Duke. And I think Powell was somebody that was in that Ian Jackson, like Trey Johnson, Jahlil Bethea tier, like that group. And I think he's dropped by other guys that rise. And I think Powell went from like a fringe lottery to like now a fringe first round pick. I think he has the potential to really be a good 3D prospect because he's 6'6", 195, could benefit from putting on a little bit more weight as well, but he's been a good 3-point shooter this year. He's shooting 40% from 3 on 40 attempts, and I think that could be an aspect of his game that stays consistent throughout this year. He averages under assists a night, and I think, like I mentioned with Ian Jackson, that's not really all on Powell not being like a good playmaker or a good passer. Like the way the UNC offense is, like Elliot Cadeau and RJ Davis they dominate the ball a ton. Like just the way their offense is, and Ian Jackson and Drake Powell are supposed to make like these split decisions to like pretty much shoot the ball once Davis and Elliot Cadeau use most of the shot clock. So I think Powell, like I'm not going to put too much stock into like the low assist numbers this year. He's averaging 7.5 points, 3.5 rebounds. And I think he shows really good 3D potential because he has that defensive upside. He's been a good 3-point shooter. He's dropped like a little bit, I think, this year in terms of his draft stock, but I think next year he could probably be like benefit from either staying at UNC. I don't think that's a bad job. Like I know people are coming from like Hubert Davis's head, but like, I don't know. I think he's a fine UNC coach, and it's just the way that college basketball is changing. You have to adapt. RJ Davis is going to be off this team next year. We'll see about Elliot Cadeau. Ian Jackson looks like he's going to be a first round pick in this draft. So I think Powell could like benefit from being like the guy at UNC next year as a top sophomore. Maybe it's a transfer portal, but I think it's more looking like 2026 potential first round pick than this year. And last two stock down guys are actually going to be international guys again. So yeah, we talked about Nolan Traore, but we do have Rocco Zikarsky, who mentioned before was right up there. I had him basically preseason center 1 in this class with Kaman Maluach being center 2. And it's just like the weird NBL style of play. We saw this last year with Alex Sarr at Perth, but he was playing like with some really good talent in that front court position. It's just we haven't seen a ton of Rocco Zikarsky this year. Like in the NBL, throughout 17 games, he's averaging 12 minutes a night. Now in the NBL Blitz play, like he's playing 15 minutes a night, and the play has been better. Or it's just like he's playing a little bit more, which is encouraging. But it's just a 2-game sample size, so it's more so like I think his draft stock has dropped because we were talking about him as center 1, and now we're just not having that sample size to really say anything about it. And with Derek Queen rising, Thomas Sorber rising, whatever you view Asa Newell as, Colin Murray-Boyle is more of a 4, but Danny Wolf, we talked about, Ryan Kalkbrenner, Creighton. Like, I don't think Zikarsky is now in that tier 1 of centers. I think he's more in that tier 2 of centers. He's not going to have a 3-point shot to his game. So now you're talking about like some guy that is raw as a prospect. He is 7'2". I think still has like really good rim protecting and shot blocking ability at the NBA level, but he's averaging just 12 minutes a night. And I think we just need to see more from him. And if he does go into the 2024 draft, 2025 draft, he's like, I think an early round 2 guy, mid round 2 guy, and you hope to develop him over time, which has definitely dropped his draft stock from what it was preseason as a potential lottery pick and the top big man off the board. And the last guy I want to talk about is Hugo Gonzalez over at Real Madrid this year. He's played about 14 games in the EuroLeague, just 6.5 minutes a night. In the ACB so far, 10 games, around 12 minutes a night. And I think it's been better for him. Obviously, in the ACB, he's playing a little bit more. His minutes have doubled, like 6.5 to basically 12. It's been a decent sample size so far at Real Madrid. And from his first 14 games, 23% from the field, 9% from 3. And now in the ACB, he's shooting 50% from the field, 26% from 3. Since 2023, he has taken 127 threes. He's shooting just 27% on them. I don't think he's going to be a good shooter at the NBA level. I really don't. I think for what Hugo is, he's still an intriguing defensive upside wing. He could be a good slasher. He could finish at the rim, but I don't think he's going to be anything like a shot creator, someone that could be a top 2 scorer, like top 2 scoring option, unless his game changes a little bit. Obviously, it's a different style of play over there compared to where it is now. I just don't think the scoring upside is there where he was in that tier 2 of guys. I'm pretty sure in my way too early mock draft, he was like top 10, and I think his draft stock has dropped this year where he's like probably not top 20. Maybe a team still takes a chance on him with a 1st-round pick. And I think he'll be pretty low on my top 30 prospect update. So he's my last like stock down guy. I hope you guys did enjoy this video. If you learned a little bit, I'd appreciate you dropping a thumbs up on YouTube. Audio version as well on the YouTube description on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. You can follow that over there. If you're maybe driving, you wanted to listen to this, let me know. It was really fun to just dive a little bit more into the 25 draft. I think on this channel podcast, we're going to talk a lot about the 25 draft, stuff I really can't throw on like the Sarosh channel. And we can kind of get really into some of these guys because I think it is a very exciting class. And I think once I break down my top 30 soon, I think I could do like positional rankings on this channel for this class, like my top 15 guards, top 15 wings, top 15 bigs so far from what we know. And then before we know it, it's going to be like conference tournament play, March Madness, NBA season's over, and then we're talking about these guys getting drafted with the lottery. So yeah, thank you guys all for watching and listening, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.